it helps if I turn the microphone on. All right. There we go. I promise I have done this before. I say that every Saturday, man. That's crazy. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody. It's your girl. They changed my camera, so hold on. I got to kind of. You know, this is not my studio. I don't own the studio. You know what I mean? So anyway, what's up? It's your girl, Miss All Purpose, live on All Purpose Radio, right here on My Radio Chicago. Happy Saturday. I am looking forward to a fun Saturday. I've got some fun planned. I'll tell you about that later, but it is time for me to jump right into my special guest today, Mr. Bill Dela Cruz. Let's do a mic check. Say something, Bill.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes. Welcome. Hold on. Let me do a few. Let me move back. A few setting things here. Okay. How are you? Happy Saturday.
I'm doing great. Happy Valentine's Day. It's a beautiful Saturday out here in Colorado.
Happy Valentine's Day. So I've got a little intro here for you. Okay. Why am I hearing feedback? Hold on. Jesus Christ. Horrible feedback at that.
Uh-oh.
Okay. Hold on. Testing. Let me turn this down. Testing. Feedback. No, there we go.
Good. All right.
I promise I went to school for this, guys. I know you don't have to anymore. But I'm going to introduce my guest for today, Bill Dela Cruz. First of all, you have such a fun name, so that's just a FYI. Bill Dela Cruz is a nationally recognized keynote speaker, facilitator, and connector of hearts who helps individuals and organizations transform conflict into connection. As the founder of Dela Cruz Leadership Solutions, Bill has spent over 20 years guiding thousands of leaders across education, healthcare, law enforcement, and corporate sectors to build trust, deepen relationships, and create cultures of belonging. Through his signature keynote, Thriving Through Conflict, and his books, Finding the Origination Point, Understanding Our Biases to Create a More Peaceful World, and Flipping Failure, Bill teaches practical, heart-centered approaches to understanding bias, shifting limiting narratives, and developing resilient mindsets. Known for his wisdom, empathy. Hey, I like you, Bill. I am loving this.
Who is that guy?
Known for his wisdom, empathy, and ability to turn division into dialogue, Bill inspires audiences to lead with heart, compassion, connect authentically, and create personal transformation that lasts. Let's give Bill a big round of applause. Yay! Okay, officially, welcome to All Purpose Radio. How are you? What's going on? Tell us who you are, Bill.
I'm doing great. It's a beautiful day. Got up, got my workout in, feeling good, and I'm just a person who's doing my best to get people to talk to each other, to connect, to quit seeing each other as these crazy divided people that we're being socialized to. And I do my best to walk the talk. I'm not always successful every day because I'm a normal human being and I have my own judgments and biases and stereotypes that I have to check periodically to make sure that I'm not stepping into that realm of making up stories about people.
Yes. Well, listen, not for nothing, you really had your hands full the last few years.
Oh boy. Yeah. You can say that again.
We need that. We need that. And when I was looking over all your stuff, I was like, it's so funny because, well, first of all, let me start here. How did Bill and I meet? So this is like our official meeting. We both were part of the Black National Speakers Association $1 Million Mastermind, where we work off Think and Grow Rich. And I remember seeing your name, like, different weeks. And I know we haven't officially met, but that is how we met, which is part of the National Speakers Association. So thank you so much for agreeing to be a guest here on my show. And I'm not sure. Well, let me say this, because, you know, NSA, Black NSA, it's all a family. So I had to ask a couple of my friends. I said, you heard of so I'll give a shout out. I shouldn't just say my friend, my accountability partner, Frank Kitchen.
I love Frank. He's a great guy.
Yeah, see, and so I knew who to ask too. And Frank and I, we speak every Friday. We've been speaking every Friday since May 2020. And so we've been just, you know, great accountability partners. But Frank said, oh yeah, I know Bill. He was like, I believe he's out of Denver or somewhere like that. So, but he said he knew you, so I knew I would have a great time. But on Monday mornings, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Robert Kennedy. He's in Black NSA, but Robert does this Monday mind shift thing. It's free on Facebook, and then he does like an after the show. But when I read your materials, I was like, oh, mindset is just in the air. So tell us, first of all, how did you even start speaking on these topics? Like, give us a little history. Like, you grew up here and in high school you did this and you made a total as much as you want, as much as you're comfortable with.
No, it's good. That's the story. We all have a story. That's the beauty of our humanity. So my story, I grew up in a pretty abusive home where my dad was an alcoholic. He was beating up on me when I was 9 years old and giving me these narratives that I'm worthless, I wouldn't amount to anything, I wouldn't be successful. And that was my life from about 9 to 13 until one day he was doing his thing with me and I stood up to him and I said, if you ever touch me again, I will kill you. I never did that. And I didn't do that. But we didn't talk for like 15 years after that because it was so crazy. And then that same year, my sister, who was 8 years older than me, who was kind of my protector, died from one day to the next from acute bronchial pneumonia. So we were sitting in our driveway just chatting like you and I are. The next morning, the phone rang at 6 a.m. and I heard my mom screaming into the phone, call the police, call the ambulance. And all I heard was her boyfriend saying, I think it's too late, she's cold. And then I was so angry that the only way I could manage my anger was through substance abuse, both drugs and alcohol. So that became a big part of my life for a number of years. I almost got kicked out of high school. And when I got my driver's license, I had a revolving door into juvenile hall for mostly street racing offenses. And when I was 17 and a half, a policeman stuck his finger in my face and he said, I'll see you when you're 18. And he wanted to arrest me when I was 18 because he wanted to put me into the adult jail system because he got tired of me being arrested and having my mommy come and pick me up. So the trajectory my life was on would never have led me here because I was on this trajectory to prison, to drug abuse, to overdosing, to death, all of those things. And I realized at 17 and a half, that's not what I wanted in my life. So that's when all of this started and I had to start to check out. I moved completely away from my environment and went to a place where I didn't have any of those kind of influences. Started thinking about that mindset that was created in me that basically said I was a failure, that someone gave to me. And I had to really do my own work to realize what was happening. And I would go to workshops at the time and I'd read books and the person up front would just say, do the work. And I would say, I would love to do it. My life is so screwed up. Can you tell me what it is? And nobody would tell me. So it made me wonder, are you doing the work or are you just telling people what to do and taking my money for it? And so when I started doing my own work and realizing that there's a skill set to personal growth that is attainable to anybody, if they're willing to do what needs to be done, then we could shift things. We could shift our mindset. We could shift our behaviors. And so I started to do my own work. And even into my 20s and 30s, it was really challenging because I had a lot of unhealed trauma and unhealed pain that I didn't know how to access. And when my dad and I did start talking, it wasn't long after that he passed away in his 80s. And so we never really deconstructed what happened between us when I was a child and he was the grown up. And so I had to process through that myself. And so my stepping into this is just all these things connected. So the one big lesson when my sister died, I remember sitting at her funeral and I was sitting in a chair here and the coffin was over here and all these people were walking by saying all these beautiful, lovely things about her. And in my twisted little 13-year-old head, I'm thinking, who are you people? I've never seen you before. My sister never talked about you. And boy, she could have really used all those beautiful things that you're saying to her when she was alive. So it made me realize that if we love and care about somebody, we need to tell them, when they're like this and not when they're like this.
Yes.
Because it's too late. So that's where this came from. That's why I am so committed to what I do, because the relationships we have with each other matter, whether it's just in passing or whether it's a family member or a friend, our kids. And so how do we work to get out of our own way versus blaming the other person for everything that's happening between us?
Yes. And that's like when the light bulb turns on, when you realize or have that moment of, I have to do the work. Now, there's only so much support that people can give you to where you feel like you're doing the work.
Yeah, that's right.
When you take a step back and you're like, oh, I have to. And then, I know forgiveness has to be a lot of this, right? When we have tragedy in our younger years, and what they say, forgiveness is for you and not the other person, or becoming at peace with what happened. I know. So when I was 5, my parents got divorced, but it wasn't until I was 30, because I was like, I think I better go to therapy, and it wasn't until I was 30. Number one, I realized that wasn't even my trauma. That was their trauma, first of all. That was number one. 'Cause you don't realize as a child that your parents are growing at the same time you're growing. Like, these people don't know it all. But I learned that was their trauma. But when it came to the divorce, it wasn't that they got divorced that traumatized me. It was the behavior, the delivery of the message, the information of we're getting divorced. But when they presented it, they both were upset, mad with each other. It was kind of like, nobody wants to be the bad guy when it came to telling the kids. Right. So not this constructive, heartfelt, empathetic plan of, because we can't work together, right? Because we're at odds as the parents, we're at odds, and one person wants it, one person doesn't. But in my therapy, I realized that wasn't even my drama.
That's right.
Growing up over the years. And that's when I went and then the therapist asked me, she said, well, have you ever got your parents' side of the story? And I was like, I haven't. So I talked to them individually, and got each person's side of the story. But I realized y'all should have never been together in the first place. I was able to start to break down the story because I was their second child, but start to break down the beginning of it, right? And then how my part comes into it. So when it comes to, were you going to say something?
No, I'm just listening. Okay. Our stories are similar. Yeah. Which is the other thing people don't realize.
When Maya Angelou said we are more alike than we are different, the older you get, you realize that. And I think even in because I don't talk politics, so I won't. Unless I have a politician here, but I don't. But in today's environment, that message of, you do understand at the end of the day, we do have we're human, right? That's like the number one. So when it comes to I know why I brought up Robert Kennedy. He was talking about mindset, but he also brought up Carol Dweck's book. Have you read her book, Mindset?
Yep. Yep.
So not. This was just this past Monday. He mentioned it, so I just downloaded it. But when you're working with clients with mindset, where do you start? Do you start with what happened with you when you was 10, or trying to figure out what's their block, or ask them, do they know what their blockage is? Where do you start with your clients?
I start with, what are your narratives? What are the narratives that are limiting you or holding you back? Because we all have them. Mm-hmm. And some people might be unaware of them. Some people go right to it. My narratives were, I won't be successful and I won't amount to anything. And so those were the limiting narratives. And then once people are aware of that, then we can go back. So the origination point is something that I realized working with thousands of people, because I would work with people and they would tell me something as an adult that was happening to them. The origination point is the point of healing and understanding. And most of the things that are put upon us as human beings are put upon us between birth and about high school, early to late adolescence. And then as we grow into adults, we create this confirmation bias where we start to see people or have experiences like that and go, oh, there's another one, there's another one, there's another one.
Okay.
And so when I work with people and they start to tell me about their narratives, and I ask them, well, go back to that age and tell me where that narrative came from. Where was the first experience? And I swear to you, Misty, some people can go right to it. They're like, oh my God, I remember it was when I was like 8 years old and my mom or my dad or my teacher, somebody told me, you are this. And so once people become aware of that, then they can heal it, because it keeps getting in their way. So I'll tell you a quick story. I was working with a group of educators. And the bias workshop is about a 3-hour workshop, and we were finishing it up, and all of a sudden I see her like this, just waving at me, trying to get my attention. She comes running over, and I said, hi, how are you? I introduced myself, and she was telling me how she really enjoyed the workshop. And then she said, I think you saved my marriage. And I had never heard that before. So I had to hear the story. And she told me that she's been married for 5 years. She's probably in her mid-30s. And her husband have had the normal kind of marriage things that people do. But the last few months, they've been having these really intense, emotionally charged arguments. And neither one of them knew where they came from. And I asked her what changed. And she said, well, he went from working a 40-hour job to this startup where now he's gone 60, 70, 80 hours a week. And through our bias conversation process, I actually support people in going back to their early days and living some of those experiences to see where they originated. And she made the connection that when she was 12, she was abandoned by her dad. And what she realizes now as a 30-year-old married woman, when her husband is gone that much, she goes back to that 12-year-old abandoned girl and is bringing all that unhealed emotion into her marriage. And I asked her, I said, well, have you told this story to your husband? Does he even know about this about you? And she said, I've never told him because I have so much shame and guilt around it. And which is another piece. Sometimes we feel so bad about who we are, how we behave, that we want to just shut it down. And that's exactly the opposite. And so my encouragement to her was to talk to your husband about it. And if you're working with somebody in therapy, talk to them about it. And because if she doesn't heal that part of herself, it'll continue to control her. And that's what these emotional charges do, is they control our interactions as adults. And we have this idea that, oh, this is just about this person in front of me versus this is about something that this person reflects that happened to me. And it's the big difference. In one way, I'm going to blame you if I think it's about you. And in another way, I'm going to be more curious and look into my own life and say, when did I experience this feeling before?
Mm.
And so that's what the origination point is all about. And it's pretty powerful. And once people are aware of it, then they can start to go back. And that's where the whole mindset piece comes in, because most people's limiting narratives were given to them when they were very young.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, no, originating point. Now I got a term for when I go back to that moment of that, when the divorce was, was happening. And,
Yeah.
so you also talk about connecting from our hearts. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that a little more. So is that in
Good topic
relationship?
on Valentine's.
Yes, and it is Valentine's. I'm okay. Well, full transparency. I am a sucker for love. Okay, let me just tell you that. I love love. You'll see once we become Facebook friends. I did send you a request.
Okay, great.
So when I in my everyday happenings of life, when I post, especially if it's like an event or something, I always put the love tour. So I'll put the love tour 2026, but I've been doing it for like 10 years. So people, they're like, I want to come on the love tour. I'm like, you are on the, like, this is the love tour right here. Me at work doing what I do. And, but I love love. And just to go to something you spoke about. So I stopped going to funerals like, I don't know, pick a year. Let's say 10 years ago. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because my intention, I'm very intentional about spending time with people while they're here. And you spoke about that, while they're this way, not this way. So I am,
That's
people that if you're extremely close family, I'll go to the funeral, like extremely, got to be like extremely close. But like I'll be with people literally up until like the day they die. You know what I mean? And then you have the funeral and things of that. So I don't feel any kind of way not going to the funeral, because I feel like everybody has a job. Some people see people when they're alive this way. And some people go see them as my daddy say, better to be seen instead of viewed. So,
that makes sense.
So, but I spend time with people, to your point, while they're alive, so that I want to make sure I get the full experience of whatever it is with each person in my life. And so we're talking about connecting with hearts. And so, I'm a lover, not a fighter. So when you talk about connecting with hearts, connecting from our hearts, explain that a little more.
Sure. I mean, it's I guess for me, it's a way of being that I never really experienced growing up because of the craziness of my home. And so once I realized that I could be in that heart-centered place all the time if I choose to be, it was like so freeing. And it's basically getting us out of here, out of this intellectual space up here in our brain. It's not where we connect. It's from our hearts. So really what I do is support people and saying, get out of your head. Let's go to your heart. Like, because your heart is your story. Your heart is who you are. Your heart is where you carry all of those points in life that harmed you, that hurt you, that gave you joy, that gave you excitement. And we spend so much time trying to intellectualize what we're going through instead of feeling that we lose out on the relationships of the people that we're with. And it's been a really interesting journey, because I've worked with police officers, and I've worked with, professors and PhD MDs and people that some people would think don't have a heart. And I say, no, everybody has a heart. And so how do we connect? And I was with one police department, and the police chief told me, he said, Bill, these folks are all like ex-military, and if they don't resonate with your personal approach, don't be offended. I said, it's okay. Let me just go in and do what I do. Everybody has a heart.
Yes.
And so he gave me like 10 minutes, because I was going to do my bias work with all of his leadership team, and he wanted me to go meet him. And I came in and did just what I did. I just introduced myself, and then I asked him to tell me a little bit of a story about him. And we got so engaged in the stories that 40 minutes later, he had to say, okay, time out. We've got an agenda to do. And so his bias of his own people was shattered because he didn't think they would engage in that way. And part of what I told him is that it doesn't matter what your police officers have been through. They have hearts, they have families, they have kids. And if we can get there, that's our connecting point. And I think what happened, if we go all the way back to COVID, where we were all socially isolated for a couple of years. Yeah, right. Well, we can let go of that thing, but I see the aftermath of it, where we were so socially isolated that then 2.5 years later, we just went back to normal, and we didn't really rehumanize ourselves to each other. And so this whole idea of speaking from the heart is about seeing the humanity that each person carries. And I've worked all over the country, and I've worked in states that have been the most liberal to the most conservative. And I've been able to find an entry point into these conversations with everybody, because there's two places of connection for every human being that I've ever interacted with. One is family, and the other one is faith. Faith is everything from somebody who doesn't believe in any higher power to the person who goes to church every day and everyone in between. If I can find a connecting point between family and faith, I can have an entry point into somebody's heart. And then the whole conversation switches, because now we're not talking about the labels. And that's the other piece that destroys us, is we've created all these labels for each other. And if you're this, then you're the other, and we don't agree. And I think that's the other piece too. If I'm in my heart, I'm seeing you as a person and not a label, because the label is my made up story about you, and the heart is who you are. It's your story that I want to hear.
Yes.
So that's a big part of that. And just getting people out of here to here. And I don't care the most, like, whatever you want to label them, the person that has a bias that says this won't resonate with that person has only tried it from their own assumptive place, where they just made up a story about it.
From
that's the beauty of it.
From their own experience, right? And it's like you get these people in this room. I actually have a friend, and when I say I love his heart, ex-military, he's a Chicago police officer. And then he tragically lost his son. And so I can, you have a job. Your job is, kind of, you gotta not wear your heart on your sleeve, right? Ideally, right? Right. But he just has the biggest heart, you know what I mean? And I just love him. Sometimes I call him on video, and he might still be in uniform or whatever. And it's just like, because you when you see him, you see police. But no, his heart is just like, oh my goodness. Let me remind you, you are listening to All Purpose Radio with your girl, Miss All Purpose, right here on My Radio Chicago with my special guest, Bill Dela Cruz. Bill, so I had a son with cerebral palsy. He passed away in 2017. But, he was in a wheelchair. He was quadriplegic. But when you talk about the heart, when you sit in hospitals and waiting rooms with parents of kids with disabilities, now financially, if you got more money, you can get more stuff. That's the way of the world. But when it comes to ailments, or trying to get services from the state or the government, whatever, because even if you got money, like, you need a lot of money, because this, it's a lot involved. But when I sat in those rooms, we're waiting to see the doctor, whatever. Your color didn't matter. Your finances didn't matter. Nope. You just want your kid better. You know what I mean? And if the front desk girl is an a-hole to you, she an a-hole to everybody. You know what I mean? Like, there's no privilege, there's none of that. You're all going through the same experience. But my point is, when you're in that space, that your family and faith is, right there at the forefront, because it takes a lot to be a caregiver. It takes a lot to care for somebody, and so in most instances, you're going to need somebody else to help you out, whether it's grocery shopping or helping with the person or whatever. So we do find ourselves, in these areas every day where it's really like heart to heart.
Yeah, because when you're in a space like that, all you see is what you're all experiencing. You have this shared experience, and you're with people that you don't have to explain it to. You
Mm-hmm.
can just say something and then they get it. It's kind of
Mm-hmm.
like explaining to people who don't speak what a speaker does. There's a
Yes.
lot of explaining that you have to do
Yes.
that you don't have to do in that space that you just talked
Mm-hmm.
about, because everybody's in that care space to get their children healthy or to get their needs met. And so you're on the same plane. And I think as humanity, we all live in the same divided country and world right now. And
Yes.
if we keep going and seeing each other as the other, it's
Mm-hmm.
just going to perpetuate. And
Mm-hmm.
so it means that me understanding my own biases and judgments and stereotypes and where they originated are
Mm-hmm.
really important if I'm going to interact with people who fit them in
Yes.
my adult life, because that's still going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And so some of the work around it is being aware, like write down at the end of the day how many people you judged,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
whether you said it out loud or not.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
goes into your brain where you see somebody and you judge them. It's affecting your being.
Mm-hmm.
And it's impossible to not judge. So it's not like we can stop doing that. It's just being aware that when I do that, it's, especially if I believe it's true, it's going to impact how I interact with you. So
Yes.
let's say I don't like the color orange, because when I was in middle school, a kid beat me up and had an orange sweatshirt on.
Mm-hmm.
And then I meet you, and here I see this orange sweatshirt, and all of a sudden I get emotionally triggered back to that middle school experience. If I haven't figured it out or healed it, it may impact how I interact with you, because I'm
Yes.
interacting with you based on a past experience and bringing in this false narrative towards you in
Mm-hmm.
my adult life.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's how these things happen, where people have a crazy interaction and then don't know why, and then they think it's about the other person versus
Yes.
taking out. This is my most favorite prop right here.
Let's see. The mirror. Yes.
So the first thing you got to do is like take a look, right?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
that's the answer. There, the answer's in there.
Well, yeah. Well, that's the answer to peace, right?
That's
If
right.
you can live with yourself
That's right.
every day that you wake up and every night that you go to sleep, and if you can't wake up with yourself every morning and every night, you got work to do, right? And that's the whole thing is, if today's my last day, can I look in the mirror and say, you know what, girl, you all right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, can you truly, what they say, judge and not be judged? But we do judge, and that awareness is so important. I'm going to switch gears just for a second.
All right.
Tell us, how do you flip failure?
How do you flip failure? It's a process of starting with the narrative and doing kind of an assessment about what's the thought. First of all, what's the thought? So the thought of I had one that was like, people make me mad. So that was my thought. And then my behavior was that I would interact with people and I probably wouldn't like them, or I would have some negative interaction. And then my action would be that I was judgmental and that I would look for negative things. And then the outcome would be that I wouldn't have really positive interaction. So it's going through a process of starting with your mindset. And if it's limiting or creating interactions that are not healthy or helpful, then I have to start to look at what is it about what's going on up here. This is where we have to start with our brain, with what is that limiting narrative. And so the idea of flipping failure is to go through a process. And the way I wrote my books is to what we talked about earlier. They're more around taking people step by step through a process. So giving everybody the tools to flip that narrative. And then the other way that you flip failure is you take a narrative and replace it with something that's growth. So my narrative was, I'll never be successful. So I created a counter narrative that said, I can accomplish everything I want. And I have to tell you, when I first started saying it, I didn't believe it at all. Because that wasn't what I saw. And it's still, I had to keep saying it. I can accomplish anything I want. I can accomplish anything I want. And then over time, I started to see it come to fruition, where I would do something and I would accomplish it. And then I would do something and I would accomplish it. And still that little self-doubt or that father's voice would come at me to say, you'll never be successful. And over time, you have to change your mindset, and then you have to change your behavior. So the mindset was, I can accomplish anything I want. The behavior was, people would ask me, can I do this? And I would say, oh, sure, I can. And then I'd have to go figure out how to do it. And back in my day, growing up, I had to go to the library because we didn't have Google. So
what did you do without Google? Oh my God. Yes, I remember.
Believe it or not. and yes. so it's taking it in steps and just focusing on one thing, because everybody has a big one, the one that's the most limiting to them. And that's why I started on the one with my dad, because that was the hardest one. Because once I got through that, then everything else I could take care of, to where, like, probably 20 years ago, I got rid of it to where I didn't even think about that I wouldn't be successful. And then all of the things aligned, kind of the stars aligned, and I would do things and be successful, do things and be successful. I'd do things, and then it didn't really land the way I wanted. And the beauty of knew that I grew is that I didn't go all the way back to what a failure I am. I just went back to, gosh, so what do I want to do different next time? Right. So there's indicators of growth. And the first step is around self-awareness. Self-awareness can be increased. That's a lot of what Carol Dweck's talking about, is shifting your mindset and growing our emotional intelligence. And, we could spend hours talking about this stuff.
Yes.
But those are the basic ways of flipping failure, starting with a self-assessment. In my Origination Point book, it actually has a self-assessment in it. So people can start to track who they are. What's my baseline? And my baseline was pretty screwed up. And that was okay, because I didn't want to get into judging myself. So we have to give ourselves grace too, because we're all growing. I'm still growing. I'm still learning. I'm still surfacing biases and judgment. So it doesn't ever end. There's only 2 times when we're not biased: when we're born and when we die. In between those 2 events, that's our shared humanity.
Well, 2 things. So as I said, I listened to Robert Kennedy earlier this week, and when he's talking about the Carol Dweck's book, but he was talking about fixed mindset versus growth mindset. And then Frank and I, we talked on Friday, so yesterday. And so we discussed it too. And so one kind of self-analysis I'm doing, I started to think about my fixed mindset versus my growth mindset in different areas. And to your point, those narratives, when you start to break them down and you say, well, why do I even think that? Where did that come from? I'm a great whatever it is, you know what I mean? And so being able to focus on a growth mindset, you actually, I'll give you another point too. So this is where I'm definitely looking at, I've been doing good with the growth mindset, but I just started. And so my daughter's about to be a junior in high school. And my son's about to be the other son passed away, but my other son, he's in 6th grade. So he'll be in 7th grade next year. So just, in August, what does Misty want, right? What do
Yeah.
I want the next 5 years, the next 10 years while they're growing? And because they'll always need you. As my uncle say, you're always a parent to one of y'all die. So there you have it.
That's right.
But they're not hanging with me every day. You know what I mean? They're off living their life. So what do I want for myself? And so within the growth mindset, it's actually exciting to think about being in a position, because now I'm on their time. You know what I mean? They in school, they got activities.
Yeah.
But what does that look like for myself personally, professionally? You know, what kind of atmosphere do I want to wake up in every day? Or, you know, I'm in Chicago, so I said I'll definitely, the first winter when my son graduates high school, I'm going somewhere warm. Okay. Now this year, even warm places got cold, right? But that's number one on my goal, is to spend my winters somewhere else. And I tell my kids, I say, listen, you don't have to move out, but I'm leaving. The house will be here. Okay. So you
can come visit.
Okay. Listen, you know how to feed yourself and Google and all that other stuff. But I'm going to be moving around. You're welcome to come wherever this warm place is and visit and hang out or whatever. But I'm moving around. So having a growth mindset, I've been finding it pretty exciting. And you know, okay, I gotta wrap it around. It's like doing an affirmation for Think and Grow Rich, right? That's the growth mindset, right? I'm gonna have this. Right. I'm going to have this amount of money by doing this by this date. This is how you know I'm going to do it. But I'm also open to ways coming to me on how to do it. Resources, network, all of it. To get to say it go. Yeah.
And just for the listeners out there, there's the way you know you're in a fixed mindset and is when you think it's not possible, it can't happen, or it just won't work. So if you have those thoughts, you're probably in a fixed mindset, because to your point, a growth mindset sees nothing but hope and possibility, which is what you just described. And I think that's where, to do this heart-centered work, we have to see hope and possibility. And so I appreciate being able to share that with you and your listeners. And hopefully we can all do our little bit and change the trajectory of our country and our world in doing that. So a little bit at a time.
A little bit at a time. So we have a few more minutes left here. So I do highlight entrepreneurs and business owners. So this is the business side of your business questions. Okay. So you started your company. When did you realize, oh, maybe I needed a separate bookkeeper or a separate graphic artist or a separate marketer or a separate whatever? Or maybe you needed a virtual assistant. Like, when did you realize, or maybe somebody else should do your taxes, but when did you realize, well, let me say this. What has been the journey on the business side? Because some people just don't have any, they hit it out the park. This how I started, this how I did. But what is your process for the business of your business?
Well, first of all, I'm always hustling work. And not in a rude way, but just in a way that if I can support you, let me know. And I'll like my books, I'll have electronic versions of my books. I'll just send my books out to people and say, check this out. And when there are things I do well. Like, I love the work that I do. I have my son who's in his early 30s, who's a whiz at websites. He does all my website design, edits my podcast. His sister does social media. She does all my social media. I send her videos and pictures. That's not my area of expertise. I have a tax person. And so I think it's important to realize what you're good at and what you're not good at. And that's what I've done, is that there are things that I don't have the expertise to do. And what takes me 2 hours takes my son 5 minutes. And so that's another piece, is I know where I can devote my time. I love to develop workshops. And so I spend my time developing workshops and catering the approach or the messaging to the group that I'm working with. And I think people think of entrepreneurship as something that is just like going to free them. And the truth is, it takes a while to get there. And it's a lot of work. And and it doesn't happen overnight. I mean, for some people it may, but then it's about how do you make it consistent and sustainable. And I've been pretty fortunate. I've been self-employed most of my life. I've run some businesses, and some have worked better than others.
Okay. Okay.
And I've had to go back and start over. And now what I find myself doing is just adapting. So because of the work that I do, and I think as speakers, we're always looking at what's happening in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just adapting my messaging now to the times that people are in, versus just forcing people to listen to my message. I'm trying to find like, what's the connecting points? And that's why the heart work is so important, because if I can craft a message of the day that connects to people's hearts, then the chance of them recommending me to somebody else goes up. And so, so that's the other piece, is that referral piece of everybody knows somebody who could benefit from talking about and understanding how to transform conflict, or how to be more aware of their biases. So that's how I approach it. And I'm not really a hard sell. I want people to see the value in it. And so it may be a little bit slower, but I have some regular clients that I work with every month. And then I'm crafting more, because the speaking gig, I just got into it as a business like a year ago.
Okay.
Even though I've been speaking, right? Mm-hmm. So I've been speaking for 20 years, but this idea of creating a speaking business with NSA and Black NSA and Influence Conference and all those things is new. So now I'm building this new speaking business. And the challenge is that everybody has an approach.
Everybody. Yes, that's what you find out.
And then every other person wants you to buy something from them that will fix it all. And what I realize is nobody has the fix.
Yes.
And what works for you may not work for me. And
yes.
So we also have to adapt our own style, if you will, about how to approach that.
Yes.
And I love it. I'm learning a lot. But I'll have somebody come. I'm in NSA, Colorado, and we have these speakers. Somebody will come and say, I don't even have a reel. And somebody will say, if you don't have a reel, you can't get work. It's like, and they're both really successful.
Right, exactly. And that's what you learn. Now, you're not going to believe this, but we didn't ran out of time, Bill.
Okay, I do believe it. I know you got to cut out pretty quick. So
I'm gonna tell you this quick little NSA story, and then when I finish, I'm gonna throw it to you. I want you to tell people your social media, where they can purchase your books, and how you want them to connect with you. So, quick little story. So my son died in November of 2017, right? I have what I call a spiritual mother. I told her, I said, I want to speak more. She's like, you want to speak more? Well, you need to get into a national speaking organization. And I was like, oh, okay. What is that? And of course I had heard of Toastmasters, but so 2018, like March 2018, I found via Google, the National Speakers Association. So, all right, let me signed up real quick, became a member. And then it was time for Influence to come up in July. It was August then. I think it was in August then, that year, 2018. And so this was my first Influence, Bill. And so I said, okay. So sometimes I'll use my outside look to present such that I don't have to talk first. Does that make sense? So I normally wear these glasses, and people 9 out of 10 like, oh my God, I love your glasses, blah, blah, blah. And that's like the kickoff. So when I went to Influence, I was like, I'm going to have this super duper fun hairstyle, and these are going to be my clothes, and I'm going to wear these glasses. So that way, I don't have to talk first. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, guess what I found out, Bill, when you go to a speaker conference? Everybody talks. So you don't have to talk first, because somebody in the hallway, in a breakout, at lunch, somebody's going to talk to you. So once I get to Influence 2018 and realize everybody talks, they love to talk, they make money talking. So, I didn't have to do that. That's Bill, funny. First of all, thank you so much for being here. Welcome. Where can everybody find you? And where purchase your books and material?
I'm on LinkedIn, so you can just put my name in the search on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. My Instagram is at BILLDELAC. And you can purchase my book on Amazon. My website is De La Cruz Leadership Solutions, and I really love to engage with people. I have a newsletter I'm starting, and if you connect with me on one of those platforms, especially through my website, I'll send you a copy of an e-version of my book. I just want to get this information out, so I really appreciate the time that you've spent with me and inviting me to be a part of your network, and hopefully we'll stay connected and continue this wherever it's going to lead us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Bill. Let's give Bill another round of applause. Thank you. Absolutely, Bill. Thank you so much. And you come back and see me soon. Okay.
All right. Have a great rest of your Valentine's Day and a good weekend.
Thank you. You too. Thank you so much to Bill De La Cruz. That was so much fun. Thank you to everybody that watched, that commented. If you're going to watch or hear the replay, I hope you enjoy it too. And I want to thank you for that. It is Valentine's Day. I am on my way to Visions, 11901 South Loomis. Our very own DJ Bulu Master is doing a Bulu day set. It's called the Day Session. Yes, with Bulu Master. So that's where I'm headed. Then off to a 50th birthday party tonight. Happy birthday, Leroy. But let me remind you, you can purchase my new book, Fearless Advocates. All you got to do is go to fearlessadvocates.com and get you a autographed copy. You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of it at Miss All Purpose. That's MSALLPURPOSE. This has been another awesome edition of All Purpose Radio with your girl, Miss All Purpose. You can join me here on Saturdays, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. So thank you to everybody that listened. Thank you to Bill. Listen, guys, have a great weekend. Have a great Valentine's Day, and I will see you next Saturday.
You tuned in to My Radio Chicago, Support District Radio Network, where it's more than radio, boy.